Information is an important asset. As more and more of this information is stored and processed electronically and transmitted across company networks or the internet, the risk of unauthorized access increases. Businesses are presented with the growing challenge of how best to protect this information, which, if left unprotected, can be accessed by anyone, leading to an information or security breach. When information falls into the wrong hands, it can ruin lives, bring businesses down, and even lead to huge financial penalties, expensive lawsuits, loss of reputation and business, which can take years to recover from.
So, what do we do?
What is the solution?
How can I secure my business data?
The answer to all your questions lies in information security. It is the practice of protecting information from destruction and unauthorized access. The basic way in which we can protect our information is through the implementation of Information Security Management Systems, ISMS. And this can be achieved mainly by following 6 steps: by categorizing information, second, by selecting security controls, third, by implementing those controls in the system, fourth, by assessing those security controls, fifth, by authorizing information system, and finally, by monitoring the security controls.
At the same time, information security also aims at safeguarding information, so that people who do not have access to it cannot see, change, distribute, or delete the same. Since resources of an organization are limited and information security achieved through technical means are limited. Also, it is not a one-time activity, but an ongoing process. Therefore, it becomes a tedious task for business and organization to implement it on their own. So what kind of information security system we require to prevent business loss and gain customers' confidence? Let's hear it from the expert.
The importance and significance of information security management systems assumes far more significance. Under the Indian cyber law, the government has actually mandated that organizations must follow the Information Security Management Systems standard, specifically ISO 27001, as a manifestation of them having complied with reasonable security practices and procedures. These are absolutely essential and mandatory and must be complied with by all organizations who are intermediaries under the Information Technology Act 2000 and who are dealing, handling and processing not just normal third-party data but also sensitive personal data of individuals per se. So in the Indian context, the Information Security Management System has specifically a legal mandate. It has to be mandatorily complied with as a minimum standard for cybersecurity by all organizations who are dealing with data and information in the electronic form.
So, what exactly is ISMS?
ISMS is Information Security Management Systems. It is basically a framework for addressing the needs of security of any organization or enterprise. In fact, you must have heard about ISO 9000. That is nothing but a quality framework which was available to the industries and organizations for implementation, and it effectively delivered the quality through the activities or the product of the enterprise. Similarly, ISMS is talking about the information security which is required in an organizations, and there is a concept of risk assessment. It is basically addressing the security of the organization with respect to the risk it is handling in the day-to-day operation of the organizations. If you look at the selection of controls, is certainly based on the level of risk, the level of protection, the level of confidentiality, integrity or availability is needed in protection of information, whether it is in the digital form or in the paper form and any other things. This standard also addresses the requirement of business continuity of an organization, which is primarily very important. In fact, in the time of COVID pandemic, we have seen The continuity of business, the disaster recovery, the restoration of the processes is of immense importance, and the organizations which have implemented this standard, they have found a great advantage of getting back to the business as usual over a period of time while implementing information security management system standards. So this particular framework not only addresses the needs of security or the risk or the threat perception of our organization, but also ensures an appropriate level of security which needs to be implemented. It means security at a cost, not at any cost, finally leading to the continuity of the business and continuity of the operations even in the conditions of disaster or any kind of pandemic as we are facing today.
Let us hear about the implementation of this standard from Deputy Director General, Standardization BIS.
The International Electrotechnical Commission has formulated an international standard that is adopted by ISO and BIS called ISO IEC 27001, which is designed to help create a robust information security management system or ISMS. An ISMS is a framework of best practices for the identification and mitigation of day-to-day security risks to the information associated with business processes. It is a blueprint of proven procedure of information security governance, risk and compliance. It is globally recognized as the best practice and can be applied in any business, in any industry.
Today is a world where we are beginning to see so many cybersecurity breaches happening, where cybersecurity breaches are the only constant and the new normal in today's lives. It's systems like the ISMS which come into the aid of any organization and help organizations to go ahead and strengthen the cybersecurity and the security of their systems, networks, and data resident thereon.
Through the use of ISMS family of standards, organizations can develop and implement a framework for managing the security of their information assets, including financial, information, intellectual property, and employee details, or information entrusted to them by their customers or third parties. These standards can also be used to prepare for an independent assessment of their ISMS applied to the protection of information.
ISMS framework has been accepted as a global benchmark because complying with ISO IEC 27001 will ensure you understand that what information your business should protect, why it should protect, what it should do to protect it, and what will happen if it fails to protect it. For protection of information, ISMS focuses on protecting three key aspects of information. First one, confidentiality, second, integrity, and third one is availability. Confidentiality means that information is not disclosed to unauthorized people, entities, or processes. Integrity means that information is complete, accurate, and protected from corruption. Availability means that information is accessible as and when authorized users require it.
I think it must be requiring huge investment in technology and other resources.
There might be a lot of documentation formalities in it.
And it might take a long time to implement.
To answer all of your questions, let us hear from Deputy Director General, Management Systems Certification, BIS.
Implementation of information security management system does not require huge investment or complex documentation. It can be implemented fairly quickly following a well-defined iterative process. ISMS provides us a framework wherein we can set our own policies, procedures, technical and physical controls which facilitate identification and mitigation of potential risks and protect the confidentiality, availability and integrity of organizational information. Yes, one investment it requires is commitment of the top management and involvement of all employees and not only limited to those involved in the IT department. In fact, implementation of the ISMS can be used as a strategic asset to demonstrate commitment at the organizational level, compliance at the legal level, risk management and mitigation at the operational level, and enhance credibility and confidence amongst stakeholders at the commercial level. It also helps in reducing costs and improving employee awareness and employee retention.
So, what does the scope of the ISMS for an organization looks like?
Scope defines organization's limits or boundaries that you have decided for which IS implementation will be applicable. Typical example for scope of any organizations are like: example 1, scope is all computer systems operated by XYZ organization. Second, scope is all computer systems operated by XYZ organization through its intranet.
Information security management system can be implemented in an organization by following 6 steps. First of all, secure executive support and setting objectives by involving and taking confirmation of the organization's top management. Second one, define the scope of ISMS, as scope of implementation may cover all or part of an organization. Only the processes, business units and external vendors or contractors falling within the scope of implementation must be specified for certification purposes. Third one, conduct risk assessment to identify potential risk that may exploit vulnerabilities of an asset, thereby causing harm to the organization. Fourth one, now manage that identified risks which we have identified in the third step. Based on their nature and level of threat, we have to manage the risk. Risk is done by identifying the controls. That is the fifth step, select control objectives and controls to be implemented. And sixth one, prepare a statement of applicability.
There is a very strong process of risk assessment. So, risk assessment decides the level of protection any asset needs while being part of the organization operations. So, there is a policy, there is an organization, there is a risk assessment, there is asset management, controls related to the technology controls, related to the access control, related to the networking, related to the software development, and there are controls related to basically if you look at business continuity, there are controls related to communications, there are controls related to various aspects of even legal compliance and the compliance to the other applicable standards or regulations. So, all set. So, starting from policy, organization, asset management, risk assessment, going up to the control at each layer of technology, people, process, and finally coming up to the level of business continuity, disaster management, and finally compliance to all regulatory technical compliances is again a requirement. So, it is a very comprehensive package. So, anybody getting into the system of ISMS, he gets a comprehensive compliance to the system and comprehensive assessment, and then get the comprehensive compliance to information security management system.
So who is responsible for implementing ISMS?
A lot of organizations says that it is the IT team or the admin team that needs to take care of the information security, but information security is rather everyone's job. From a manager to peon, everyone has a contribution towards the implementation of information security management system.
The history of ISO/IEC takes us back in 1992 when it was adopted as a code of practice for security management, and after that adopted by the British standards in 1995. Later on, British standards was taken as base documents and ISO/IEC developed ISO/IEC 27001. The latest version came in 2022, which is the most popular information security standard in the world, that is ISO/IEC 27001-2022.
Whenever anybody wants to demonstrate to anybody outside that they are complying to the ISMS and they have an independent certification, they need to comply to certain mandatory clauses. The mandatory clauses are basically related to the scope of the standards. It is about the policy, processes, people, risk assessment, resources, monitoring mechanism of internal audit, management review, and the corrective action. These are the few clauses which are clause 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 initially in the part of ISO 27001 standard. They are the mandatory clauses. They gives the overall framework to the selection of controls which are on the appendix A of the whole standard.
Apart from the mandatory clauses, there are 93 controls in Annexure A covering the entire information security management system, including areas such as physical access control, firewall policies, security staff awareness program, procedures for managing threats, incident management process, and encryption. The standard also requires organizations to compare the measures they have implemented with the Annexure A controls, and they are then expected to implement missing controls or else provide documents or reasons that those controls are of no use to the organization.
So what are the benefits of ISMS?
The key benefits of implementing an ISMS is that it helps protect all forms of information. It provides a framework for keeping an organization's information safe and managing it all in one place. An ISMS offers a set of policies, procedures, technical and physical controls to protect the confidentiality, availability and integrity of information. The standard's holistic approach covers the whole organization, not just IT, and encompasses people, processes and technology. This enables employees to readily understand risks and embrace security controls as part of their everyday working practices. It protects the entire organization from technology-based risk and other more common threats such as poorly informed staff or ineffective procedures. Thanks to the risk assessment and analytical approach of an ISMS, organizations can reduce costs spent on indiscriminately adding layers of defensive technology that might not work. Implementing and maintaining an ISMS will significantly increase an organization's resilience to cyber attacks.
But why do I need certification when it's not mandatory?
Whether a business has relevant certification or not can be a significant determining factor for businesses. Some companies only prefer to work with partners that have certain certifications. For instance, if a company deals with sensitive information, having an information security management system in place may be a mandatory requirement. An organization might require ISMS for all of its associates as a part of its company policy or even due to legal requirements. A lot of government projects require it as a prerequisite as well.
Even for companies that don't require ISO or IEC compliance, certified businesses will stand out when compared to those that are not. If a company follows ISO or IEC guidelines but doesn't have a certification, a customer might be less likely to choose because they don't have the same assurance as certified organization.
But where should I go for the certification when there are so many service providers providing certification at different prices?
You can get certification from a lot of organizations, but one institution that has been engaged with the international institutions ISO IEC and formulated this standard is Bureau of Indian Standards. BIS is the national standard body of India and represents the country in the International Forum on Standardization, including International Organization for Standardization and International Electrotechnical Commission. BIS has been operating management system certification schemes under an Act of Parliament, that is BIS Act 2016. This makes BIS the only certification body in India providing management system certifications through an Act of Parliament. BIS provides credible, efficient and impartial management system certification services following national and international standards.
Organization desirous of obtaining system certification from BIS as per this management system standard has to follow subsequent steps illustrated by Deputy Director General Management System Certification BIS.
Organizations desirous of seeking certification from BIS have to follow the following simple steps. Implement the requirements of the concerned management system standard in the context of the organization. Develop various types of documents like the policy, the procedure, objectives, targets, external and internal issues, operational risks, etc. as required by the standard. After that, these documents have to be got approved from the authorized persons and circulated to all departments within the organizations to create awareness. Once the awareness is created, then you have to complete one cycle of internal audit of all departments, which will definitely include top management and one cycle of management review to ascertain that standard is in place and is giving the intended results. After the above process is completed and the organization feels that they are ready, submit the application through BIS portal. After submission of the application, the concerned regional management system coordinating officer will guide you about the subsequent stages towards certification.
Although Management Systems Coordinating Officer will guide about the subsequent stages towards certification, still, let us understand briefly about the further course of action.
The concerned regional office processes the application for grant of license. This includes audit of applicant in 2 stages, which we call Stage 1 audit and Stage 2 audit. These audits are carried out to gain sufficient evidence related to conformity to the management system implemented by the organization. Now, Stage 1 audit. The purpose of Stage 1 audit is to assess the organization's preparedness for the Stage 2 audit. During Stage 1 audit, following things are verified: scope and boundary of the implemented management system, types of services covered, process involved, and relevant statutory and regulatory requirements. B. Confirmation of the information submitted in the application. C. A review of the documented information of the implemented management system, that is, documented processes and procedures, policies, etc. After satisfactory actions are taken against findings of Stage 1 audit, if any, with supportive evidence, Stage 2 audit is planned. Stage 2 audit. The purpose of Stage 2 audit is to evaluate implementation, including effectiveness of the management system to be certified. Following activities are undertaken during Stage 2 audit: information and evidence about conformity to all requirements of management systems under certification, performance monitoring, measuring, reporting and reviewing against performance objectives and targets, ability to meet statutory, regulatory and contractual requirement, operational control of the processes, etc. Audit of all departments as per schedule is carried out, relevant evidences are collected and verified. If any non-conformity is observed, the same is discussed with auditee, system coordinator and communicated to the auditee for taking appropriate action with a time frame of 45 days as per BIS guidelines. Once the audit activities are completed, Deputy Director General of the region takes decision to grant the license to the applicant. The license is granted for 3 years, during which there will be 2 surveillance audits conducted at an interval of 1 year. BIS follows a robust certification process utilizing competent and experienced auditors. Over the years, as the management system stabilizes, the organization can make use of the management system as a tool to improve their own system.
Certification from National Standards Body of India. All management system certification are operated in accordance with the standard ISO IEC 17021 Part 1. Ensures objectivity, confidentiality and impartiality in the certification process. Professional, competent, qualified and ethical auditors in all the technical areas and sectors. Certification imparts confidence to the interested party during tenders and bids. Ensures improvement of processes on continuous basis.
Wow, it's so simple.
All my doubts are cleared.
I'll apply for certification from BIS today.
What about you?